A Vietnam veteran with no close relatives at the time of his death in 2018 would have been blown away by the number of attendees at his funeral. After veteran Stanley Stoltz died in his nursing home, a social worker called the Good Shepherd Funeral Home and asked if they could provide him with a proper burial. Stanley had no known family to make arrangements for him, so funeral home director Michael Hoy made it his mission. He reached out to veterans groups and placed an ad in the newspaper inviting the public to attend the funeral. But he never expected that it would go viral on social media.
It's just been a tremendous outpouring of support for this man and even non-veteran affiliated groups.
As the notice about Stanley's funeral spread, the list of attendees grew.
Legion Riders will be there, the Patriot Guard will be there, and of course the Veterans Honor Guard. It's extremely important that somebody represents a veteran. Nobody dies alone.
Michael Hoy also learned that Stanley did, in fact, have a few surviving family members that lived quite far away, one of whom made arrangements to travel to Omaha for the service. But Stanley's relative wasn't the only one willing to make the long trip.
I closed up shop and said, I'm heading to Omaha. I didn't know who this guy was, but you know what? He gave up his freedom when he joined the military for that short time in Vietnam, for our freedom.
In fact, so many people decided to attend, it created a traffic backup along the road to the Omaha National Cemetery. Several hundred people of all ages and backgrounds gathered to lay Stanley to rest.
This is amazing. It's beautiful. This is what people from Nebraska do.
I just think it's amazing how many people came out today to support this man who left this world not knowing that anybody was here to support him. And there's so many people here to support him in the freezing weather, just to show that there's people who care about you no matter who you are.
Stanley served for 2 years in Vietnam. His ex-wife said his memories of the war haunted him, leading to substance abuse. In 2012, he entered a homeless shelter for those dedicated to getting sober. Some years later, he ended up at a nursing home where he resided until he died at age 73.
This banner of love folded November the 27th, 2018 at the Omaha National Cemetery is a living memorial to the courageous duty of our comrade, the one who was honored this day.
This story happened to be in our neighborhood, so I sat down with my fellow KETV reporter, Sarah Feely, who was at Stanley's funeral, to share some more details about this story. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Alexandra. Thanks for having me.
So, a ton of people showed up for this funeral. Can you talk a little bit about the reaction from the funeral organizers when all of these people are funneling in?
The funeral director knew that people were interested in supporting this veteran, but people just kept filing in, and more flags were coming, and these people were parking across the street. And at one point I spoke with someone who said, yeah, I just ditched my car along the highway and walked about 1.5 miles because I wanted to make sure I was here on time. The day of, they expected maybe 200 to 300, and 1,000 showed up. It was, to the point where the funeral was being stalled 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because there were so many people. And I think the farthest away, somebody came from 5 hours away. He said, I'm closing up shop. I've got to go support my brother. And he was also a veteran.
Now, there was a flag presented during the ceremony. Who was that given to?
So because Stanley had little to no family that was known at the time, and nobody was listed on his medical records for this to go to, the funeral home actually decided to keep the flag.
How cool. Now, you talked to a number of people at the funeral. Did you have any conversations that didn't make it on camera that you wish had, or things that stuck out to you that you want viewers to know?
There was a young girl there. She was probably 14, I think, at the max, and she was just bawling the whole time. And so I walked up to her afterwards, and, just the natural curiosity of a reporter, I said, why are you crying? And she said, I just feel so bad. I didn't know this man, but he battled so much in his life. And, for him to be here with nobody at his side and to die thinking that no one cared about him and no one would remember him and no one knew who he was, she said, I wish he could see the world through my eyes right now. And I really wish that she would have been willing to say that on camera. She said parts of that, but there was no shame cast on the family for not being there to support in his final days, but she just really wished that Stanley could see the outpouring of love and that in his lifetime, maybe some of these people who were at the funeral may have been there by his side.
And since you were reporting on it, what was your reaction to seeing this? What was going through your mind that day?
It was tremendously moving, honestly, to see someone who died with no one. And Vietnam was not a very well-respected war when these men came home. And so it was really moving to see that kind of support for someone who, when he came home, he had no support. We're all struggling. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody's got things going on in their life, but especially these veterans who really have given all. There's always somebody out there who could just use a friendly wave or a hello. And in Stanley's case, his caregivers were there through his final days and at his funeral as well. But, just don't forget about the people who may not have someone to say hello to them.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Sarah, and sharing Stanley's story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This was a very powerful act of solidarity that moved many to tears. Have your communities rallied behind any events like this? We'd love to hear your stories, so share them in the comments. I'm Alexandra Stone, and this has been your Weekly Dispatch. Thanks for watching Dispatches from the Middle. If you liked this episode, subscribe for more stories like this.